With that being said, question from the audience is with stock market down and a lot of uncertainty, and with all indicators look like it's probably more room for it to go down. We know the first year of a presidency is usually flat. Second year is actually the worst year. So if that follows suit, the next year will be a bad year in the stock market. Is it time for option traders to liquidate their positions?
I think you got to have liquidity. I spoke about this on Thursday night, and I was talking about reserves, right? And so this is why we talk about entering positions and having a clear exit strategy. And that exit strategy could be a monetary number or it could be a percentage. So whether it's 20%, 30%, 40%, if you hit those numbers and you sold some of those positions or some of those contracts, now you have reserves. I always tell people, like, if mine was 100, if I get to 100%, now I know everything else that's running is pure profit.
No. Well, I mean, why? If they
like completely
down,
starting over,
down on their positions. If they have not made money, they're down 40%, 30%. They're down on their portfolio. They're not in a position where they're actually up on their portfolio.
So if you're down 30% in a position.
Yeah,
but that's part of the strategy before you enter it, right? And so we spoke about this in a few of the. What is your threshold, right? If my position goes down 40%, is that now where I'm exiting? Well, it could vary for company, right? And I gave a great example of how NVIDIA did that, and it pulled back 57%, and I didn't move, right? Because I just believe
strength of company matters a lot,
right? And so that same call that was down 50% ended up going to be a 2,000% gainer. Now, is that an anomaly? Yeah, NVIDIA's run is
AMD won't do that.
Right. But AMD has done that for me before, right? Like in 2021, it pulled back. I had it at 85, it ran up to 149, it pulled back, it ran back up to 190.
Yeah.
So it's just about when you're creating your plan before you enter a position, what is the threshold? Where am I exiting at, right? On the upside, is it a percentage? Is it 30, 40, 50, 100? I know everybody wants to get to 1,000%, but is 100 the threshold where I'm saying I'm taking profit at? And then on the reverse, where am I exiting at? Am I comfortable if this thing pulls back because volatility moves quick, option trades move quick, bids and asks move? Is it 20%? Is it 30%? Is it 40? Or do I base it on my company, right? NVIDIA, I might let go down to 50, 60%, right? Where I might not do the same for AMD where it's currently at. I mean, if it pulls back that far, then we're in some real trouble. But right, I don't want to see it get down to 90%, and I'm in a company that I'm like, all right, one of these quantum stocks, and I'm like, all right, well, it's at 90%. I should just let this thing try to get its way back up. No, I'm cutting my losses, right? This is a volatile sector right now. 20% might be the cutoff, right? And then I can get in a better position. I did that with Broadcom last week, actually. I watched the stock pull back 25%. Quality company. I watched it pull back 25%. The option calls pull back 50%. All right, well, those are two of my metrics. I like it. I spoke about this at the mastermind where we spoke about Nancy Pelosi, and what she's doing is buying deep in the money. And we can go into that deep in the money, at the money, in the money, deep in the money, quality position, pulled back on the stock equity, pulled back on the option call. I'm going to enter it. It was a home run, and they beat earnings, and obviously there was some upside, and today it pulled back. But I'm repositioning myself out of 2025 positions. I'm in 2026. That Broadcom one, I'm in 2027. So, it's just about the strategy. And
I think the key is quality. If you're trying to do this with Tilray, delete your account.
Right.
It's over with. I'm sorry. Like,
it's going to be tough.
And two things can be true. I can see the SPY going to 540. Maybe the deepest I have is 525, 44. And then we still end up at 640 at the end of the year. We can still hit recession. Or we could have a scenario where we hit all-time highs at the end of the year and the overall economy be in a recession. It's really tricky with leadership. And it was telling that Bitcoin dipped so much after the announcement.
Right.
Ethereum is down, 40%?
It dipped for a few reasons. It dipped because they included every other coin except for Bitcoin. But the main reason is that they didn't have a plan to buy Bitcoin. It's just so that was what they was really looking for. The Bitcoin community was like, okay, is the government going to buy Bitcoin? That's helpful, right? And that leads to consumer confidence, and that leads to But when they said that they have no plans of buying Bitcoin, they're just going to continue their same path of holding Bitcoin, and they get Bitcoin from seizures and criminal activities and stuff like that, then that wasn't a positive sign that they have fully bought into the idea of Bitcoin. Because if you fully bought into the idea of it, why would you not buy it?
Or why? I mean, that sounds like the common theme, right? What is the real plan? It just feels like they're just like this week is one thing, tomorrow's a new thing, next week it'll be a different thing. Like again, the uncertainty of it is the biggest catalyst for the detriment of what we're seeing in the market. That right, you created a crypto czar, right? Right, like you would think that I mean, obviously these guys are really intelligent, right? We're not just going to discount that. Bitcoin is. And you said this, right? This is the sun of this space. This is everything relies on the performance of that. So to not have that as part of your strategy, huh?
And from what I heard, they went against what David wanted to do.
And you're gonna get no non-biased opinion from any financial channel except for us, because there's retribution if they talk about the administration. So if you watch any financial channel, you're not going to get a bias. They're still making excuses for the situation. But yeah, it makes no sense. This was a play to get votes. This was a play to play on the crypto community. Either you're pro crypto or you're not. You can't say you're pro crypto and then you don't want to buy crypto. El Salvador, they put their money where their mouth is. They actually purchased Bitcoin, and it's worked out for them so far. So if you don't have to put the whole entire government's backing into crypto, but I mean, there's enough money to buy some crypto. So if you really believe that Bitcoin specifically is going to go up over the course of time, why would you not buy it? That's what Michael Saylor was saying. It's a great way to use it to pay off debt in the future.
Listen, you saw that picture of Michael Saylor at the conference? Seeing how frustrated he was, I'm like, government is messing up. Like, what are we doing? Hey, Kanye.
Nobody can say anything about the administration right now. Everybody's scared. Even if you look at Michael Saylor, they asked him, they was like, how do you feel about this treasury not being just Bitcoin? He's like, no, I think that there's smart people inside the administration, and that everybody's saying the same thing. I've never seen people scared. They have the one thing I'll give Donald Trump is that he's created a level of fear that has to be respected, because he's ruling with an iron fence, and they had no fear against Biden, Obama, any other president. They just say what they want to say. But there's no critique of anything that he does. Like, everything that he does is good. There's no critique on anything that he does, at least not publicly. And it's fair. It's a lot of fear.
Is that a New York thing? Because like 50 rules the same way.
Got to.
Trump like white 50.
50's from Queens. I mean, Trump is from Queens too.
Oh, okay.
So it might be. Who knows? But
Shout to Astoria.
This yeah. Crypto, not a good idea to put Solana, Ethereum, Cardano, XRP.
I'm not going. The Cardano, like, as much as I like, shout to Kayla for putting me on. As much as I liked it for my own personal gain, that should not fucking be in a reserve.
Favor for a favor, right?
What are we doing?
he didn't give him the job as the czar. I'm sure he figured out a deal to work him into this. This is all signs are pointing to him being the czar.
You gotta listen to your czar. This is the correct, like. And Tesla down damn near 14%.
Yeah.
Like, what? This is the Making America Great Again?
Have you watched the show Paradise?
Oh, it's one of my favorites.
This is what this feels like.
Absolutely. Who's the Sinatra in this scenario, though?
Yeah.
And then China's doing everything opposite of what Trump is doing. So China, Xi Jinping has taken an approach to be counter-Trump. So when Trump is erratic and he's making enemies across the world, he's going to be friendly and he's going to be diplomatic. Because now countries have two options of who they want to work with. You want to work with America, who's erratic, disrespectful, a tyrant, or you want to work with China, who seems so. Even with this Israel-Palestine thing, you see how Trump approached it. He said he's going to turn Gaza into a resort, and he said, Hamas. He tweeted them, and then if you look at China's response, it was the complete opposite. It says that we need a measured approach, that the Palestinians should not be forced out of their land, that we need a two-state solution, that there's no peace without Palestinian self-governance. They did the exact opposite.
Yep.
That's a diplomatic approach to make friends across the region, in the Arab world, and across just the Muslim world in general. That was intelligent for them to do. And then everything that they're doing, as far as with Canada, Mexico, they're building in Mexico. And they're making alliances in Mexico. So
Yep.
everything that Trump is doing is allowing them the opportunity to be the opposite on a global stage. And who would have thought that China would try to be the voice of reason?
Remember that scene in Friday when Debo and Craig were going to fight? America's Debo. But this, if everybody jumped Debo at one time, that's bricks. The way of how we used to rule does not work anymore. To your port example in China, they have a whole port. Look at the Manzanillo project. While our economy is not doing the best, our stock market is not doing the best. Citizens are upset, and we don't have great leadership in the country. It's a perfect attack. It's like the Avengers, but China's version.
And then we're going to throw taxes on everybody.
And then it goes back to also one of these things where, okay, so we talked about the China play. We talked about Bitcoin. But this authoritarian rule has reached levels that we haven't seen since George Bush the second.
Mm-hmm.
They just arrested the guy from Columbia University that started the protest, the Palestinian protest. It's a pretty unprecedented situation. He's a green card holder, and they arrest him with no charges.
In the land of the free.
How do you get arrested for starting a peaceful protest? And then how do you get arrested with no charges as a green card holder? That goes against the Constitution. This is unprecedented. I don't think people fully understand what's happening.
Nobody bigger than the program.
You're talking about freedom of speech getting trampled on.
They said even if you peaceful protest and you're getting federal funds from the government, they're trying to cut that off.
Oh, for sure.
Huh? How does that work?
Shit ain't about who though.
That's why these things are just being said. Will they be executed? Who knows? Will they try to? Maybe.
They already executing on them.
I'm saying to take federal funding from the schools.
They started Columbia University. Yeah, they already started. But like I said, it's one thing to do that. It's another thing to actually arrest somebody because you know what's next.
What's that?
Black Lives Matter, anything that has anything to do with black people.
Oh, it's over with.
They already got Donaldson. He's campaigning for Corner of the Year award. They had him out there in it's one of these southern states. They trying to reverse that civil rights law that's been on the books since 1969. That's the next thing. All black people really have is protests. So they setting this thing up to start arresting people for opposition against the government.
Yeah. And at some point, very soon, anything pro-black is going to be labeled a terrorist organization.
Yeah, perhaps.
This is precedent for it already. That happened in the 60s. That's
what I'm saying.
That's every organization that happened in the 60s.
That's the Black Panthers. That's how I got labeled.
Okay. Well, after all this fear and gloom, what is the solution, guys?
For what?
All of it. DEI, the Trump administration, the falling economy.
There's no solution. You gotta wait it out, see what happens. But like I said, you gotta buy Bitcoin, hold it long term. Real estate, prices of real estate is gonna go up. For sure. And stocks, you gotta know when to get in. That's ianinvest.com. You gotta know when to get into the stock market. You gotta hold the long term.
VOs, VTI, SCHD, QQQM, QQQ, Eli Lilly. Amazon, Microsoft, Apple, even though they keep putting out the same shitty phone, TSM. If TSM was in America, I would have been killed off Apple.
We're getting closer. We're getting closer. I guess one of those the questions that we get, and it's kind of going over, is people want to know where the bottom is, right? So, like, if we look at the EMAs, if we look at the trends, is there a bottom in sight? Are we near it? I guess in like 2020, it was the same type of question when we looked at COVID, and it was like, wait, the market hit 13,000. I'm like, wait, this thing could fall. Where could it reach? So, like, are we near it? Based on like what you're seeing, I guess some of the things I'm looking at, have we hit a trend line near the bottom?
No, 540, 530 could be the bottom.
Whew.
On the SPY. 5,400.
So Tom Lee predicts. He said that this is the best time to buy stocks now, and
Shout out to Tom.
you know, he's predicting a massive rally in a couple of months. What do you think?
I agree. All the money's gonna flow in. Like, listen, something I want everyone to take a look at. When the market is in triage, notice who isn't speaking. Buffett, Tudor Jones, Druckenmiller, all the greats are being quiet and executing. All the greats in private equity are executing. They're buying, right? So if we get to, like, we are really at a point where if the market is off 15 to 30% in some markets, now's the time to buy. We will have a nice rally probably come into right after InvestFest, like the same way it did last year. So if I'm buying now, this should be the strategy. Buy in February and hold through October, November. You're going to get the best return. Term of the day, asymmetric risk to reward. So if I buy now, I have a higher probability chance of getting a 15% or 20% return now than opposed to if I did it 2 months ago. The market has come down to a level where I would want to invest. So if I'm getting in at on a SPY 550 or 545, I can see probably by August or early September us being back at 600. Now is definitely a time to buy if you're looking to hold for the long term investing only.
There you have it. Okay. Is it time to ditch the chase for big gains and bunker down to safe value stocks only?
The real value is buying great companies at a great price. I know a lot of times we talk about sector rotation, and this argument is coming up again, tech versus value. The real value is to buy at the right price. Are there some value stocks that I like? For sure. Waste Management being one, Caterpillar being another, Home Depot being another. Great. But if you think that you're going to be able to get away from technology stocks when it's the only thing really not only, but one of the main things driving GDP in America, debt and healthcare, you're poorly mistaken. The real value is to buy at a deep discount and then concentrate. Warren Buffett's quote, going to another quote. If you're a professional investor, I will focus on hyper concentration. I want to remind you, you only need 4 or 5 good stocks. And technically, if you have Bitcoin, like how some of your big Bitcoin maxes, you only need 3 good stocks after you have Bitcoin. So I don't think it's the time to rotate into value. But if you buy great companies at a deep value, you'll get a better return that way. What value? Yeah. Indexes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, so growth stocks, value stocks. I know the percentage for depreciation is something that people try to figure out and will create their own strategy. Do you keep it the same for both, right? So I know, I think you had like a 25% depreciation. I always like to be between 15 to 20.
I like 25% in tech.
Is there a difference between value and growth, or does it stay steady for both?
I think every sector is different. But a good exercise for everyone is go look at from the high of the market over a 15-year period, how far does it fall? Because every healthcare is different from, let's say, energy. Energy is different from utility companies. But for tech, I usually like, if I get a 25% drop in the sector, I'm elated if it's a high quality company. If you're looking at value companies, maybe 10 to 18% is somewhere I would like to get in. But if you listen to the show, like I'm literally giving you guys the prices and companies and where to get in. And if you join Stock Club, you get all sectors across the board. But yeah, 25% in tech is where I usually like to get in, for sure.
Yeah. I know somebody's gonna, like, I was looking at Apple's chart. I was looking at it on Friday as well. I'm just like, will this thing drop 20%? It could. It could.
Yeah.
But how many times? I think looking at it from a historical perspective is key. How many times in its history has it dropped 25%? Right? And then, so
Go homework, or you go on ChatGPT or Claude and ask.
it'll tell you.
The research is in his heart now.
And it will tell you. So
Yep.
when you see a rare moment like that happen, then you know this is probably a prime time to start executing. So if you're looking at where the bottom is with, how many times does it drop 20%? Where NVIDIA, we've watched it drop 20% twice this year.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? And even lower. So taking a look from a historical perspective, how that stock has performed, especially some of these mega cap and these strong companies, look at their historical perspective so you can start getting an inkling of, all right, this might be a good point of entry.